Hey everybody, happy Monday. Hope you guys have had a great weekend and a great week last week. Hey, listen, I want to remind you one more time before I get into what I want to talk to you about today. I'm thinking of starting a podcast, but I really need some feedback from you guys because I don't want to take the time and do the work necessary to do it if nobody's going to listen to it. So if you don't mind, please, please, please take 2 seconds. 2 seconds is all I'm asking. Take a minute just to comment down below and let me know if the podcast, Anxiety Diaries podcast, is something that you would listen to or that you would recommend to somebody to listen to. If you would do that, it would help me out a whole lot, and I would appreciate it more than you can imagine. So let's go ahead and start what I want to talk to you about today. You know, a lot of times people who are really well meaning say things to those of us who are suffering from generalized anxiety disorder or panic disorder or both that they think are helpful, but really for us in the moment or really in general, they're not particularly helpful. And so, what I want to tell you today are 5 things that people say that I wish that they didn't say. The first one is, you're okay, or you're going to be okay, or everything is okay. So, in fact, I'm not okay, especially if I'm in the middle of a panic attack. So, if you can imagine, I want you to imagine for a minute that you are the most scared that you've ever been in your entire life, and that adrenaline is coursing through your veins, and your heart is beating rapidly, you're short of breath, and you feel like you've got to run for your life. That's what a panic attack is like, only times 100. See, the response that we have when we have a panic attack is the same response as the fight or flight response that has kept the human race alive and well for hundreds of thousands of years. It's that exact same response. And so every time we have a panic attack, we feel exactly like, some caveman 100,000 years ago might have felt if he was being chased by an animal that could rip him from limb to limb and tear him to shreds. It's that sort of response. We have to run for our lives. If we're inside somewhere, we've got to get out. If we're outside, we've got to get inside. There is that urge, that irresistible urge to run away from whatever the thing is that is chasing us. Only there's nothing chasing us. And we know that. Our rational minds know that there's no real danger. But as we've talked about before, panic is an irrational response. And so at the moment, we cannot rationalize our way through it and make everything be okay. Everything is very much not okay. The next one is the one that probably makes me giggle the most when I hear people say it, and that's when people say, just relax. Oh, if only. Apparently, some of us were born with a little switch on the back of our heads that we can flip up and down that allows us to relax or not relax. I didn't get that switch. I so wish that relaxing was easy for me. But not only is relaxing not easy for me, and I'm like a lot of other people with panic disorder who I've talked to about this. Not only is relaxing not easy for us, sometimes the act of trying to relax actually makes us more anxious. I wish that I could go somewhere on vacation, lie on a beach, close my eyes, sit in the sun, hear the waves. But if I were to try to do that, I would worry about getting skin cancer from too much sun exposure, or I would worry about some little kid playing in the ocean and their parents not paying attention to them, or I would worry that while I'm lying there on the beach trying to relax, something is going on back home that is going to destroy something in my life and I'm totally out of control of it. These are the kind of things that I think about. Like I said a minute ago, sometimes the very act of relaxing makes me anxious because when I relax and I'm still and I'm quiet, I have time to think. And thinking for me is not always a very relaxing thing. So we want to relax. It's not that we don't want to relax. It's just that sometimes relaxing is incredibly hard for us. So to say just relax is really almost laughable to us. Next up, we have take some deep breaths. Okay, I don't know about you, but I breathe constantly, even without thinking about it. But when I'm in the middle of a panic attack, breathing deeply is a real chore for me and for people like me who suffer with panic attacks. Um, just like trying to relax, the very act of physically trying to take deep breaths sometimes makes me even more anxious than I was before because I'm having to think now all of this crazy stuff is going on in my head, and now I'm having to think about taking deep breaths on top of it. That is sometimes information overload. It's too much in my brain at one time. I assure you, we're breathing, and we're breathing as deeply as we possibly can, as often as we possibly can. Just give us a few minutes. Our breathing will slow naturally as the anxiety comes down, but you may have to just be quiet for a minute and not remind us to breathe deeply because just the reminder sometimes creates even more anxiety. The next one is one that is spoken by people who are so well meaning and who really do truly care. I understand that. But this one is don't worry, God won't give you more than you can bear. Guys, I know you mean well. I really do. But that when you say that to us, especially if I'm in the middle of a panic attack, if you say that to me when I'm in the middle of a panic attack, it's very frustrating for me because it assumes that I don't trust God when I very much do trust God and I believe in Him and I believe that prayer works and prayer can change things. But I also believe that panic and anxiety disorder are very real physiological disorders that people have that have nothing to do with their spiritual life. But also, here's something that I want you to think about for just a minute. When you paraphrase that scripture, when you say, God won't give us more than we can bear, you're really taking that scripture out of context and you're assigning a meaning to it that doesn't really exist. So the scripture reads, no temptation has overtaken man except that has no temptation has overtaken us except that which is common to man, but God is faithful, who will not allow you to be tempted beyond what you are able. And it's in First Corinthians. Now what Paul is talking about there is spiritual temptation, the temptation to sin, and that God will not give us more temptation than we're able to bear through his grace. It doesn't have anything to do with anxiety or panic disorder. Those are not spiritual, they're physical in nature. So I know you mean well. I really do. And I do appreciate your thoughts and I do appreciate your prayers. But please think about it carefully before you say that. All right, finally, last but not least, you're not trying to get better. Folks, I'm not a big believer in policing what people say to other people, but I want to caution you that you need to be very careful about the things that you say to people who suffer from any sort of mental disorder or mental illness. Because even the most innocent things, even the things that you mean in the most innocent possible way, can end up hurting very deeply the people that you care about. I promise you, I try every single day to get better. I really do. And the other people I know who suffer from anxiety and panic disorder also try every single day to get better. But what I want you to remember is that it's a battle that we're never going to win. We're never going to be well. Some days will be better than other days. Other days will be worse than the day before. And we may go long, long periods of time, even for years at a time, without having difficulty with anxiety and panic attacks. And then all of a sudden, in the blink of an eye, out of nowhere, we're right back where we were before. That's just the nature of the disorder. There's nothing that we can do to change that until someone finds a cure for anxiety and panic disorder. That's going to be the cycle that we go through. But I assure you that we very much are trying to get better. So those are the 5 things that I hear people say that I wish that people didn't say. If you say any of those things to anybody with anxiety or panic attacks, please understand I'm not mad at you, and I don't think that you're a bad person. I believe that you truly say the things that you do because you want to help the person that you love. But sometimes the way that you can help the most is by being a friend, caring, loving that person, and sometimes just being quiet and being there for them. All right, guys, that's it for today. Wherever you are, whatever you're doing, I hope that you are healthy. I hope that you are happy. I hope that you're taking care of yourself. And I hope that you have an awesome day. We'll see you next Monday. Bye bye.